Well, welcome back. We are back at the beginning because we have more endings to get. We're gonna fall asleep this time to start off with. Serge. Oi, Serge, I'm talking to you. My head jerked upward as I snapped back to consciousness. Idiot that I was, I'd managed to drift off. As I came back to my senses, I looked up to see the hulking shadow of Lynx's manor looming over us. Wakey wakey, sleepyhead, we've got work to do. Her words had hardly reached me before she jumped onto the terrace and disappeared within. Ack, wait up, kid. Flustered, I rushed after her. The corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. Alright, where's our way in? Kid's casual comments settled our nerves. Magil quietly surveyed our surroundings. Meanwhile, I found myself distracted by how cold the sweat on my forehead felt. It was only when I reached to wipe the sweat from my brow and turned my head slightly that I happened to see it. We're going to be going after that, not this time, but we will be actually going after this light eventually. A soft glimmer of light. At least, I thought that's what I saw. A gentle glow coming from a decorative window close to the ceiling. But as much as I strained my eyes to try and catch it again, I couldn't. Oi, Serge, you better not be sleeping on the job. We'll leave you for the guards to find. Kid and Magil were already far down the passageway. How long had I been standing there? You want to go ahead and rush after them for this one. The corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. We want to go to the left because we want to go to the study before we go any further. We took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs, the path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight onward. We want to go ahead and take the side passage. We headed down the side passage. At the end of it, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. You want to go ahead and head inside. Kid gently pushed the door ajar and peeked into the room. The next thing I knew, she'd slipped inside. Magil and I followed. Looks like a study. The room was lit by the moonlight coming through the long, slender windows, slanting down in pale beams through the darkness. It was pretty big for a study, with an immaculate antique desk dominating the center. There were rows of bookshelves lined with thick, dusty old tomes. The wall to the rear of the room was decorated with paintings, and shelves of vases and painted plates stood before it. They all seemed to be curios from foreign lands. We want to check out the paintings this time. I stood in front of one particularly prominent painting on the wall and examined it closely in the pale moonlight that shone through the window. It was an oil painting depicting a strange scene, the likes of which I'd never seen before. It showed an endless red desert stretching to the horizon. Above it hung a deep orange sky presiding over a range of impossibly tall mountains. And though it didn't seem to be night, I could see stars. Were those stars? What was this landscape? It seemed completely out of this world, and the longer I looked at it, the more I experienced a strange sense of sadness. I felt like a lone fugitive in a foreign land. I realized then that Magil was standing beside me. Oh, sorry, Mage. I spaced out for a moment there. For a moment, I took Magil's piercing gaze as criticism for becoming so absorbed in a painting while we were deep in enemy territory. I was wrong. He stayed exactly where he was, his gaze fixed, even after I stepped away. I never had much of an idea what Magil was thinking, and tonight had been no different until now. Suddenly, I saw the contents of his mind laid as bare as if I'd opened up his head and peered inside. A fire burned within him. It was as if Maxwell's demon had given him a free pass on the second law of thermodynamics. No. It was as if all the free helium and hydrogen atoms around us had suddenly undergone thermonuclear fusion, and the resulting neutrinos could be observed boiling in a glass of water. That's how much he was on fire. His expression was as blank as it had ever been. But whatever flowed beneath it had clearly caused a massive jump in temperature. Serge, if anything happens to me, I want you to take care of Kid. What the hell is that supposed to mean? But the question never reached my lips. The answer was clear enough. Sometimes a fire runs through a man's veins, and all he can do is launch into an epic battle he might not come back from. I finally found you. He was still staring at the painting. His gaze was so piercing it could have shot through the wall and impaled Cronus, father of the heavens. It was clear to me that this red-hot intensity had been burning deep within him for a very long time, kept just barely below boiling point, trapped under his expressionless mask, until now. Guys, you alright? You both seem kind of worked up, said Kid cautiously. The throbbing veins of our temples, carrying hot blood to our pounding, manly hearts, had illuminated our surroundings with the blue glow of a Cherenkov reaction. Horizontal stripes of light in a sort of pastel indigo shade pulsed violently across the background behind her, and the left half of her face, and a gigantic 2-inch bead of sweat was trickling down her cheek. Pah! What was the point in trying to explain? She'd never understand what it means to be a man, a real man, with the uncontrollable urge to drench himself in the blood of battle. Don't you see, Kid? Magel's about to face his ultimate enemy. If you know what it means to be a warrior's wife, wish him farewell with a smile, even if it hurts to do so. Crack! Ooh! That's enough to bring you back down to earth, big man, or should I aim a little lower? Huh? What was I doing? You had to admire Kid's dedication. In order to wake me up from my testosterone-fueled reverie, she carefully undone the laces of one of her boots, taken it off, neatly put it to one side, and an axe kicked me in the head with the heel of steel. So what's got Magil all worked up? I'm not sure. I guess it must have something to do with Lynx. As soon as we came in here and he saw that painting, hot blood was pumping from my forehead at 50 cc per second. I pointed a wavering finger at the oil painting of the desert. What? What about the bloody painting? She clearly hadn't enjoyed my spaced out excuse for an answer. She picked me up by my collar, a look of bewilderment and frustration on her face. Magil was still standing in front of the painting, bathed in a blaze of blue fire. And then, amid the flames, I saw a pattern starting to form on the back of his tightly clenched fist. It was some kind of symbol, a slanted broadsword overlaid by the letters S and P, all in blue. My friends, we have no more need of keys. Having discovered who Lynx really is, I feel no reluctance in unleashing the hand's true power. May its searing blue flames guide our way. Oh, what? I don't know what you're on about at the best of times, mate, but that was just gibberish. And on that bombshell, we decided to leave the study. Anyway, we want to head back toward the terrace. After a short walk down the corridor, the terrace came into view, and we want to continue following the corridor. A short way along the corridor, running from the right-hand side of the terrace, we found an ancient-looking door, again on our right. We don't want to go in here yet. We're going to go ahead and continue on past the storeroom here. Yeah, I better see what's on the end of this corridor first. Kid left the door alone and continued on down the corridor. We returned to creeping down the darkened hallways as silently as we could. We came across a sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward. While this door is clearly meant to keep something safe, if there ain't some sort of treasure behind it, me name ain't Kid. Yeah, that's the smell of cold, hard cash, all right, she muttered as she began to inspect the door more closely. Okay, we want to actually go inside here. Whoosh. Okay, maybe whoosh was an understatement. The moment Magil's glowing hand touched the door handle, it and most of the door immediately disappeared as if he just popped the flimsy surface of a soap bubble. Strike a light. If you could do that this whole bloody time, why didn't you do it sooner? Kid pouted grumpily as she slipped through the hole and into the vault. I made to follow after her. The edges of the huge hole Magil had made in the door were smooth and clean, as if it had been made with an impossibly sharp blade, and it had left not a single speck of debris on the ground. Before you ask, I have no idea where it all went, said Magil, as if reading my mind. I braced my hands on either side of the opening and followed after Kid. As I entered, she moved further into the room. Struth, get a load of this! As our eyes grew accustomed to the darkness, we saw that we were surrounded by priceless treasures and works of art. That's a statue of the hero Kafel from planet Terrast, and there, a stuffed Saturn Dermophos, a gray lens, a Tochukaso Trifid, a Life Maker nameplate, some Klendathu royal jelly, an angel crystal, and that one that resembles the gravestone crossed with a Swiss army knife is a Zolan blue stone. Geez, Mage, how many people are even going to get all those references? I started to feel dizzy. If you have any complaints about how we've handled the source material, you can send them right here, said Kid cheerfully with a forced grin. She was addressing the camera directly and pointing at her butt. Kid, look at the monitor. The subtitles are in the wrong order. Frustrated, Magil turned down the fader for his microphone before sighing incredulously. I realized then that I could hear the director berating the vision mixer near the relay van. What? Great. Now they've got an excuse to cut our pay. As I stood there sinking in despair, Kid came and shook my shoulder. And then I noticed a red glow like a heat haze coming from something standing between the sheet of iodinite that the increasingly flustered floor director seemed to have knocked over and the Clare Bible. The frozen flame, I whispered, then gulped. There, on a pedestal that looked like it would be pretty difficult to make a 3D model of, floated a jewel that looked like it would be pretty easy to render in a few simple polygons, gently turning and giving off a red glow. Stop! It's too dangerous! Kid had reached out for the frozen flame, only for Magil to grab her wrist with his glowing hand. The red jewel instantly vanished into thin air. I think the only thing in here that's dangerous is your door-popping magic hand, Mage. Kid turned back while Magil proceeded to use said hand to hack away at the pedestal. It was hollow, and inside it was the assistant director. He was using one hand to turn the device that made the frozen flame rotate, and the other to flick the switch of a flashlight covered with a transparent red plastic sheet. He looked at us sheepishly. The tally lights of the cameras hadn't followed us, so he didn't try and make a run for it. So this frozen flame is merely a prop for these people to use. Kid made his pronouncement in a significant sounding voice, but Kid was already distracted by something else. Oi, you sneaky little rat, where's the frozen flame? Leave him, Kid. A lowly assistant director wouldn't know the first thing about something so important. The man gave Kid an impotent, sycophantic smile, which she responded to by seizing him by the scruff of the neck. Magil quickly intervened to separate the two. With a cry of "Thanks guys, see you tomorrow," the assistant director fled the scene. The real flame must be somewhere else. Magil tried to sound authoritative while awkwardly holding up the side of the prop he'd ruined. I should warn you, Kid, it is likely to be very different from what you're expecting. We left the room, thanking each and every one of the gods that all the ridiculous business with the film crew was finally over. Okay, at this point, we want to go back to the storeroom. So we want to go back to back towards the terrace. And there's a door on the left. So let's go ahead and go into the storage room. In we go. Kid stilled her breath and reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked. It swung slowly open. What's this room supposed to be? Place is a dump. Kid had poked her head in through the door, taking a quick peek to see if there was anyone inside, and was disappointed by what she found. The room was large and littered with peculiar-looking machinery and knickknacks, all of which were covered in dust and had seemingly been dumped there haphazardly. Everything looked like it had been there rusting for a very long time. The ends of the room were completely dark, and it was impossible to tell just how big it was or what the walls and floors looked like. It seemed the manor's inhabitants had turned the old clock tower into a makeshift storage space some time ago. I stepped warily inside. I didn't know what the sensation was at first, but the further I went into the room, the more I felt it, a profound uneasiness. What's that sound? Kid noticed it first, and what a strange sound it was. It was a low, intermittent hum, just quiet enough that I wasn't sure if I was hearing it or feeling it, and it was coming from up ahead. It was cold, flat, unfeeling, and unlike anything I'd heard before. Kid seemed fascinated by its strangeness. She ventured further and further into the room. Over here! She'd gone all the way to the back of the room, back to where there was no light from the hallway, nor moonlight from the window. But it wasn't entirely dark. There were little lights like fireflies blinking on and off. But unlike fireflies, there weren't just green ones. There were red, blue, and orange ones, and all the other colors. I'm not sure how to explain the thing that all the lights were stuck to. Compared to the rusty pieces of junk closer to the door, it had otherworldliness that gave me goosebumps. As my eyes grew to the light, I saw that there were other similar objects in the room. They stretched from floor to ceiling. It was as if the entire back half of the room was one gigantic machine. What's Lynx doing with all this stuff? I wondered. And then I remembered the uncanny feeling I had when I saw the painting in the study. I didn't want to admit it, but this feeling was similar. I couldn't put my finger on how, though. It was the same blazing intensity that had taken hold of Magil when he saw it. It still had a hold of him, now that I mention it. Oi, Serge, what are you doing over there? We found something. I hadn't noticed that I'd been left all alone amid all the strange contraptions. I hurried over to Kid and Magil. Kid had found something that looked like another gigantic box. This one was just slightly taller than Magil, and there was a set of double doors on the front of it. Bugger, sorry, false alarm, it's just a bloody fridge. She was right, it did look like one, which begged the question of why she'd called me over so excitedly. Kid, you can't just say fridge. They haven't been invented yet, snapped Magil, cutting me off entirely. He'd beat me to it. Peh, fine, just ignore it. It ain't worth much anyway. She gave it a derisory kick and turned away. The moment she kicked the box, it got up on both legs and began emitting a shrill noise. At the same time, the low, quiet hum became louder, turning into a loud whirring. Two impossibly powerful-looking arms emerged from both sides of the box, and then a cuboid head popped out from the top. It had two big, round eyes and a gigantic mouth, with what appeared to be a row of clenched teeth. On top of the head was a ribbon-shaped parabolic antenna that spun steadily round and round. Ha! Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Kid fell to the floor laughing at how utterly anachronistic this new arrival was, and to think we'd been worried about fridges not having been invented yet. Seemingly offended, the box-like machine, okay, robot, flung open the doors on its chest, revealing two thick, menacingly looking cylinders. Okay, they were Gatling guns. Each was flanked by a set of 3 gears, all daubed in primary colors. The gears began to turn, and the robot opened fire on us. God, even this is a lot for me, even. Kid was laughing so much that she ran in circles, trying to avoid the bullets that she'd worked herself up into a choking fit. Serge! Kid, Serge, get down! A sonorous voice resonated through the gunfire. Aha, the limited edition Mars Marauder, my nemesis of so many Christmases ago. I know your weaknesses all too well, oh friend. Magil leapt up high, nearly touching the ceiling, then struck with a blow that could have crushed boulders. With a single strike, the battery compartment, holds 2 size C batteries, on the robot's back was shattered. Are you alright? Came his dulcet tones as he landed gracefully. He was, of course, still burning up on the inside. Oh ho ho ho, ah ha 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 ha. I guess I've literally split me sides. Kid was crouched on the ground, clutching her stomach and still giggling, but she didn't seem hurt. I was also fine, by the way. It doesn't look like there's anything left for us here. Let's look elsewhere. Magil stopped mid-sentence and arched his eyebrows. He walked over to the robot's remains, plucked a curious white object from within them, and stuffed it into his pocket. What was that? Oh, just something that might come in handy. I had no idea what he was talking about. Well, shall we? Magil seemed suspiciously cheerful, but I decided to leave it for now. And yet, I couldn't help but wonder, what was that strange mechanical doll? Yeah, I know it was a robot, but can we try and play along with this whole historical accuracy thing for just 1 minute? And what had it been doing? What had it been doing in Lynx's manor? What had Magil called it? The Mars Marauder? And what was going on with him exactly? There was something different about him. I'd never seen him cheerful before, let alone incandescent, which he still very much was, by the way. It was probably a bit late to ask, but just who was he, really? And what was his connection with Lynx? Pulled along by these, frankly paper-thin mysteries, the story charged inexorably forward towards its inevitable conclusion, like a train whose driver had made a quick exit from the window. If you want to reset and play a different scenario, now's your chance! Okay, so at this point, we want to go ahead and, let's see, to the left or the right, we just came out of the storeroom, so let's go ahead and head down the, oops, I want to go down the, that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go back. So, let's turn back here. We want to continue toward the terrace. So let's go ahead and continue on. After a short walk down the corridor, the terrace came into view. Okay, we want to continue following the corridor here until we reach the intersection with some stairs, and we want to go ahead and we want to go down the stairs. Wait. The blood circle's not supposed to be here. A shimmering curtain of light appeared around us, blocking our way. I didn't know what the light was, but considering where we were, it was safe to bet it was far from harmless. Hey Mage, you reckon you can break that ball thingy with your magic? Kid was talking about the source of the light, a round object that appeared to be carved into the floor. A circular channel ran around it at a distance, through which light pulsed rapidly, giving rise to the curtain above. Was this one of the defensive magical sigils I'd heard rumors about? What's the holdup? Just make it explode, will ya? We ain't come across a gizmo you can't blow up yet. Magil ignored her. He just stood there, eyeing the magic circle intently and making no attempt to cast a spell. Wait, Mage, you listening to me? Kid narrowed her eyes, then crept up to him, readying the most brutal weapon she had in her possession, her right elbow. But then... Is that a whittle bunny? As soon as she saw what Magil had retrieved from his pocket, Kid's eyes shone with delight and wonder, and her eyebrows jumped up like two surprised caterpillars. Yes. Well, actually, it's a kind of replica of a creature known as the lesser Martian bunny Bun-Bun. Let's just call it a toy bunny. Magil was deadly serious. Meanwhile, Kid's eyes appeared to have been replaced with giant throbbing heart symbols. And then he thrust his hand up the bunny's backside. At this point, I should probably mention that the toy was a puppet. So, what are you going to do with this lesser bunny Bun-Bun? Kid had clearly suffered a critical hit to her mental faculties, so it was left to me to ask the question. I tried to do so as casually as I could manage. It dawned on me that this must be the object Magil had pulled from the wreckage of the robot earlier on. Anyway, as you've probably forgotten by now, Magil had been gloriously fired up since seeing the painting in the study, and the inferno was still raging within him, which meant that it was probably best not to provoke him, and I just made a blunder. You mean lesser Martian bunny Bun-Bun. Right, the lesser Martian bunny Bun-Bun. Good boy. He nodded solemnly like a philosophy professor who just related some great mystery of life. Anyway, now that that's settled, let's move on. He turned his back to me, facing the magic circle once more. Wait, what do you mean now that that's settled? We didn't settle anything, I demanded inwardly. Latu, Barada, Nikto. Completely ignoring my obvious frustration, Magil began reciting a strange spell, twisting the bunny. Sorry, the lesser Martian bunny Bun-Bun into all kinds of peculiar poses. The bunny dance seemed to have an effect, and the curtain of light faded a little, leaving me to wonder if anything was going to make sense again. Serge. Magil turned to face Kid and myself. Staring me solemnly in the eye, he thrust the bunny, sorry, the lesser Martian bunny Bun-Bun, into my hands. I'm leaving this in your care. You'll know when to use it. And how exactly am I supposed to use it, Mage? The light ain't completely gone. You sure it's safe? Asked Kid. At some point, she snapped out of the bunny's spell, and she was right. The magic circle still seemed to be in effect. The point of the curtain of light is not to keep things out, but rather to keep an even more dangerous light in. It would be risky to weaken it any further. A dangerous light? Then what are we doing hanging around right next to it? Fear not, the toy we found has the ability to nullify its effects. That's why it's essential for handling the frozen flame. I had no idea what he was talking about. Anyway, we passed safely through the corridor of light and eventually arrived at a large door, which we opened. Something felt off. Fine, even more off. We had found ourselves in a very strange place indeed. It wasn't that it was bad or wrong, it was just, like I say, strange, stranger than anything I'd ever felt before. It felt like going to a shop in a foreign country and buying a pack of 12 crayons, only to find out that it had too many purple ones and not any blue ones. Something like that. So you finally arrived, you flea-bitten monkeys. A shape towered over us to the left, like the figurehead of a boat made hideous with bits of metal and throbbing veins. It was Lord Lynx, and with him was a giant crystal that gave off a pulsing red light. So this was the frozen flame. Lynx finally showed your ugly mug, huh? Kept us waiting long enough. Kid glared at him with a bestial sneer. I'll make you pay for everything you've done, she shouted, then ran straight for him. Or maybe she ran, then shouted. I don't know. Anyway, she charged at Lynx like a rubber band fired from a finger gun. Ah, Kid! Like a film reel played backwards, she was thrown away from Lynx as forcefully as she'd run toward him. I rushed over and helped her back to her feet. Foolish, primitive apes, this room is filled with devices designed solely for the purpose of protecting me. Devices so sophisticated your tiny brains could barely comprehend them. You'll never lay a finger on me, even if you spend the rest of your pathetic lives trying. Clearly pleased with his little speech, Lynx broke into a cackle. But much as it pained me to admit it, he was right. We weren't getting anywhere near him. Ha 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 ha, you are unusually quiet, street rat. What's the matter, lost your nerve? I'd been desperately racking my brains for some kind of cool comeback, but he was clearly on a villainous roll. Not for long, though. His face twisted with the horror as he looked up toward the warped lines of the ceiling. Bzzzt, dling, dlang, 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 danga, meow, meow. Was that a guitar? Exaggerated focus lines like those drawn by a comic book artist's pen appeared in the air behind Lynx. I followed them to see an imposing figure floating in front of the stained glass window. It was Magil. He had an amp and a guitar, which he was cradling to his chest as he strummed away with a look of rapt concentration. He was a picture in double denim, his jacket dotted with studs, and a pair of enormous goggles. He really had nailed the look except for one thing. The fox mask that sat at a jaunty angle on the side of his head was completely out of keeping with the rest of the outfit. "Magil, what the bloody hell are you doing?" yelled Kid, who seemed to be on the verge of losing her mind. He didn't seem much affected, though, and kept on playing his guitar. Then the transformation happened. "Gwa! Ah! Stop it! Make it stop!" screeched Lynx, clutching his head. "Ha ha ha ha! It seems good old escalator to paradise is having the desired effect. Don't tell me all your awkward high school memories are flooding back." Magil tossed his head back and laughed some more. "Wait a second, escalator to paradise?" Lynx thrashed and wailed amid the painstakingly produced feedback of Magil's guitar. His face went greener and greener, and then he finally ballooned up like a cream puff. At the same time, cracks spread across his body, and all of a sudden, it broke apart to reveal a mass of slender tentacles. "Oh, that's gross. What the hell is he?" "Beats me." "Don't give me the usual awkward laugh and hope it goes away rubbish," yelled useless bloody sook. Gulp. That stare, she could see right through me. Well, I can't do everything, right? I mean, I've got a role I have to stick with, and, you know, I have to do all the narration, too." Suddenly, I was cut off by a dramatic sound effect. While Kid and I were busy bickering, Lynx had completely transformed. What? He looked like an enormous cartoon octopus. So we meet at last. Ooloorooloo, Martian Mega-Mage. Come quietly or I'll have to use force. So saying, Magil leapt nimbly down from the stained glass window with a heroic flourish. "Sorry, Kid, Lynx here. Ooloorooloo rather is mine. I've been chasing this H-class intergalactic felon for 500 years now." 500 years? What the hell are you on about? "I'm sorry, I've had to hide this from you from all this time, but my real name is Whammy Bar Star Spangle. I'm with the Space Police. I'm here to serve and protect with the power of rock and roll." To punctuate his big reveal, Magil, it'd be shorter if I used his old name, adopted a theatrical pose before frantically changing into a snazzy metallic suit. They clearly called him Spangle Star for a reason. "Sorry, Star Spangle." Silhouetted by the moonlight, his leg hairs glistened impressively in the gloom as he frantically struggled to pull on his crime-fighting outfit. "There, I'm ready for action." Having finally finished his mid-act costume change, Magil moved in on Octo-Lynx. In case you were wondering what Lynx was doing this whole time, he was biding his time in a sportsmanlike manner, proudly rattling off a list of his greatest crimes and evil deeds. He was an evil alien mastermind now, remember, so he had certain rules to stick to. "Whammy Bar Star Spangle, I knew this day would come. It's your fault that I had to flee Mars and crash land in this primitive black backwater. Do you realize what I had to do to survive? I ate my ship's seat and luggage. I even sliced up the driver's seat floor mat and boiled it. And here I was, having struggled for so many years to finally be able to repair my ship's fusion reactor and get it ready to fly again, only for you to show up on the same damn day." Lynx thrust out an arm to point at the frozen flame behind him. "Or a tentacle? I don't know that much about octopuses, okay?" I knew it. The so-called frozen flame is in fact an Acme Mars Cyclone crystal fusion reactor. "Well, Ooloorooloo, I hate to break it to you, but your hard work was all for nothing. I'm going to smash that reactor to smithereens." A flash of light glinted impressively across Magil's mask, followed by a really cool blue pulse across his armor. "Fool, I am the Archmage of the Martian Empire. Do you really think that engine repairs are all that kept me occupied this past 500 years? Lynx produced a gun-like device that he had conveniently stowed away somewhere, and then turned it on himself and fired a psychedelic ray of light. Somewhere I heard the sound of grinding gears, and then he suddenly ballooned into an enormous size. Had he been measured on the international displacement scale of megaships, he would have easily exceeded 10,000 tons. Don't just stand there gawping, Magil. Call down the space police mothership. Kid was way beyond the point where this stuff fazed her in the slightest. She played along beautifully. There isn't one. Oh. Kid and I made the same disappointed exhalation at the same time. I'd have used a smaller character size if only the font allowed it. Does that mean we're in trouble? Big trouble! I didn't expect he'd have a gigantifying beam handy. What's the matter, Whammy Bear Jam Jangle? Weren't you going to smash my reactor to smithereens? The walls around us cracked and started to collapse as the giant Octo-Lynx cackled and reveled in his apparent victory. Wait, wasn't the reactor going to get smashed anyway if the whole manor came down? Looks like it's do or die, Serge. I'll be the decoy while you... Major was interrupted by a giant battle axe flying into the back of his head, embedding itself in an 86-degree angle with an almighty thunk. Mage, can you hear me? Stay with us! In a panic, I shook his body. This was bad news. If he died on us now, we were toast. White smoke rushed from his head as he lay there stunned. It didn't look like he'd be making a comeback anytime soon. I reckon it's time we skedaddled, said Kid. She clearly wasn't messing around. Skedaddle? Carrying Magil? Nah, leave him. He would have wanted us to get away safe instead of suffering a horrible death together, probably. Kid sure could be savage at times. No, you won't make it. The metallic fingers of Magil's spangled gauntlet grabbed my ankle from behind. Let's not get into details about why I was already facing away from him. Use it. The replica of the lesser Martian bunny Bun-Bun. Oh right, the MacGuffin! How could I have forgotten about that strange bunny that he'd conveniently and quite conspicuously given to me earlier in a completely predictable development? The question was, what the hell was I supposed to do with it? Serge, please, use it to protect Kid. Oh crap, he's about to die. My eyebrows fixed into a rueful arch. I turned to face Lynx. Serge, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. Go, Serge, I imagined Kid shouting. In reality, she was popping her head cautiously around a corner and giving me her full support by watching nervously to see what would happen. Hey Lynx, get a load of this. And what I thought would be my final desperate act, I pulled the bunny from my pocket. But by doing so, I had caused a change I could never have foreseen. You sneaky little, where did you find that wobbly willow bunny? Lynx howled with surprise. You're not planning to make it do the little dance that makes the fusion reactor explode, are you? True to form, Lynx gave everything away. Anyway, I figured it was worth a shot, so I made the bunny do a little dance. Kaboom! No, my precious ship! Wow, it really blew up. What the heck is this bunny, Magil? It's a Martian universal remote. You Martians are really something. Serge, we've got to run. With Lynx defeated, the entire lair began to explode and fall apart right on cue. Kid came up to me, Magil leaning on her shoulder. She looked like a bear being forced to walk by some half-mauled prey taking a ride on its back, but without it being too much effort, because bears. The walls fell behind us as we ran and ran. There was no time to stop and see what had become of Lynx. Mere seconds after we escaped the manor, the entire building collapsed with the force of a red giant succumbing to its own gravity, becoming a black hole. I'll get you next time, Star Spangle! A collection of tiny flying saucers zipped upward from the manor's ruins as Lynx escaped, delivering that most classic of lines. Kid and I watched the scene unfold as we supported Magil by both shoulders. Well, all's well that ends well. Even Lynx got a happy ending. The fiend. I never would have expected he'd have a fleet of emergency getaway ships. He's covered all the basics of being a regularly occurring villain. Though, through the transparent underbelly of his flying saucer, I could see Lynx and his goblins furiously pedaling away on what looked like a tandem bicycle. They probably weren't generating enough power to make it to another planet. Well, boys, looks like our little Lynx hunt will be back on from tomorrow, said Kid pensively. At the same time, she seemed kind of glad. And so was I, because our adventures were only the beginning! And so ends another tale. Perhaps one day I'll see Kid, Magil, and the Martians again. One day. Somewhere, at another time, in another world. Perhaps none of us will even realize it. But that's a story for another day. For now, I must put down my pen. I closed my grandfather's diary. And then from downstairs, I heard my mother calling. Did you hear me? Your friend's here. Nimble footsteps charged up the stairs. The door flew open. In tumbled a young girl, a girl who seemed somehow familiar. Hey Serge, it's a beautiful day for adventuring. I found a rundown old manor off in the woods to the north. You want to go exploring? Come on, put the book down and let's get out there. UFOs. Well, that was bizarre, to say the least. I'll see you next time.